Welcome to this public engagement session on the 2022 Investment Plan and Transport 2050 10-year priorities. TransLink acknowledges, respects, and celebrates the Indigenous nation on whose territories we are fortunate to live, work, operate, and serve, and recognizes that in planning and managing the region's transportation system, we have a role to play in supporting reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. In this session, we'll go through four things. First, an overview of how TransLink is planning for the region's transportation future. Then, we'll walk through the two plans that we are seeking feedback on. First, the proposed 2022 Investment Plan and Transport 2050 10-year priorities. Finally, we will tell you how to get involved and give your feedback. TransLink is currently in the midst of preparing two different plans that will shape the region's transportation future. First is the 2022 Investment Plan. Investment plans are TransLink's strategic and financial plans that outline the service we will provide, what projects we will pursue, and what revenues we will collect. The proposed 2022 investment plan will focus on stabilizing TransLink's finances over the next few years as we rebuild from the pandemic. The Transport 2050 10-year priorities will identify the next phase of projects and initiatives from Transport 2050 that will be prioritized for future funding and implementation. These projects will help us reach our Transport 2050 targets, including on climate action. The 10-year priorities will guide investments in future investment plans. We are seeking your feedback on the proposed investments in both of these plans. Your feedback will be considered by the Mayor's Council on Regional Transportation and TransLink's Board of Directors. While we are undertaking both plans at the same time, they reflect proposed investments over different timeframes. Investment plans outline planned expenditures over 10 years and exactly how we will fund them and must be updated every 3 years. This investment plan will focus on the years 2022 to 2024 with an outlook to 2031. This investment plan is intended to stabilize our finances. The 10-year priorities focuses on the decade after the 2022 investment plan, estimated to begin around 2025. The prioritized investments outlined in the 10-year priorities can then be incorporated into future investment plans. I will now outline the proposed investments in the 2022 investment plan. TransLink has bold ambition for the future, but the first thing we need to do is to stabilize our finances after pandemic-related ridership loss while maintaining our services and systems. With this in mind, our area of focus for the 2022 investment plan are as follows. We are proposing to maintain current transit service levels, make buses more reliable through investments in bus priority infrastructure, like bus lanes, queue jumps, and bus bulbs. This reduces the amount of time buses are stuck in traffic, which makes taking the bus not only a better experience, but also makes our transit system more efficient. This plan provides the region's share of funding to build the Surrey-Langley SkyTrain all the way to Langley, and includes funding for a new operations and maintenance center. TransLink is committed to reducing its corporate emissions. That's why this plan includes funding to replace 462 of our diesel bus fleet with battery electric buses by 2030. It also includes funding for renewable natural gas buses and critical charging infrastructure. This will help reduce our emissions by 37% by 2030. This plan also includes funding to make streets safer. It includes funding for new walking and cycling infrastructure cost share programs with municipalities through 2024 and includes ongoing funding for road safety upgrades for the major road network. That's why we are proposing a conservative approach to funding the investments in this plan.
Transit ridership is already returning, but there is still some uncertainty to the pace of this return. That's why we are proposing a conservative approach to funding the investments in the plan. This means we are aiming to limit affordability impacts to households and will address any additional funding needs in the next investment plan. For this plan, we are proposing raising $52 million in new revenue, first through maximizing revenues from non-taxation sources, including commercial revenues like advertising, real estate development, and carbon credits. We also propose raising an additional $29 million in property tax. Spread across property owners in the region, this is expected to increase property tax by $3.30 in the year 2023 for an average valued property. Fares will increase annually by 2.3% through 2024 and by 2% from 2025 to 2031, which is lower than previously planned. The fare rates originally planned for 2023 won't be reached until 2026 or 2027. Over the next 3 years, we will monitor how ridership and fare revenue returns and continue to explore new sustainable funding sources with our partners.
TransLink and the province of British Columbia will continue to work together to identify a balanced mix of revenue sources that are fair, affordable, stable, and support transportation objectives. Adopted in January 2022, Transport 2050 sets out a vision for future transportation in the region across all modes. Now we're building a plan called Transport 2050 10-Year Priorities that sets out what we, as a region, think we should get started on right away. By identifying the next phase of priorities, we can be ready to include these investments in future investment plans. 10-Year Priorities build on the momentum of Transport 2050 to make transportation better for everyone, no matter who you are or how you travel. The proposed investments contribute to the 5 Transport 2050 goals to make moving in the region more convenient, reliable, affordable, safe and comfortable, and carbon-free. It includes investing in convenient, reliable, safe, and comfortable transit, like expanding bus service, adding transit priority infrastructure, and safe and comfortable transit facilities. Building out the reliable and fast transit network, including new rapid transit and express and interregional connections, and supporting people-first streets and walking, biking, and rolling. The 10-Year Priorities proposes a bus-first approach with historic investments to double local bus service. This will reduce wait times, add more service on weekends, late at night, and early in the morning, and expand to new service areas, including treaty and reserve lands, disadvantaged communities, and parks and natural areas. We propose increasing service on HandyDART to meet future ridership, minimize trip denials and refusals, and provide 24-hour service. The plan also proposes improvements to Seabus, SkyTrain, and West Coast Express service. And finally, we propose significant improvements to passenger safety and comfort at transit stops, stations, and exchanges.
Potential new bus service areas are added across the region and include new service to regional parks and to growing neighborhoods. The 10-Year Priorities is also proposed to include 170 kilometers of new, reliable, and fast corridors, including up to 9 bus rapid transit corridors. Bus rapid transit, or BRT, is a form of rapid transit that uses buses to deliver fast, frequent, and reliable transit service, generally using dedicated lanes, transit priority signals, iconic stations and vehicles, and off-board fare payment. It differs from rapid bus mainly with the use of dedicated lanes that keep buses out of congestion. The 10-Year Priorities also includes the Burnaby Mountain Gondola and the Millennium Line UBC extension. These corridors support Metro 2050's growth management framework in providing service to areas where the region is expected to grow. We will continue studying the feasibility of rapid transit corridors in other parts of the region, including connections to Port Coquitlam Centre, upgrades to the Expo Line and Canada Line, and the 41st and 49th Avenue corridor. On this map, you can see the extent of the reliable and fast transit network and a list of the corridors for rapid transit investment. Except for the UBC extension and the Burnaby Mountain Gondola, these rapid transit corridors will be BRT. The 10-Year Priorities also proposes implementing rapid bus as an interim measure on some of the corridors we are considering for bus rapid transit, as it will take time to build out BRT and we want to bring improvements more quickly.
The 10-Year Priorities proposes new express and interregional service. Express services include Coquitlam Centre to both Port Coquitlam Town Centre and to Surrey Centre over the Port Mann Bridge, along the Highway 99 corridor through the new Highway 99 tunnel, and along the Highway 91 corridor over the Queensboro Bridge. TransLink proposes working with the province and neighboring regions to advance interregional service to the Fraser Valley and Sea to Sky corridor. We will also study additional express corridors for future investment, including Guildford to White Rock, Horseshoe Bay to downtown, and Newton to Langley. 10-Year Priorities also proposes historic investments in transforming people-first streets to make active travel more convenient and safe. This improves access to options that are cost-effective, healthy, and low emissions. The 10-Year Priorities proposes completing up to 75% of the 2050 major bikeway network, completing up to 66% of the 2050 walkways network, installing new bike lockers, bike parkades and counters, and upgrading the BC Parkway.
In terms of next steps, your input will be shared with the Mayor's Council on Regional Transportation and the TransLink Board of Directors. The 2022 investment plan will go to the Mayors and Board for approval in May 2022. The 10-Year Priorities will go to the Mayors and Board for approval in summer 2022.
Thank you for joining us today. If you'd like to review more detailed information, please refer to our discussion guide. TransLink is looking for your feedback through the online survey found at translink.ca. You can also send an email with any feedback you may have to transport2050@translink.ca or call us at 778-375-7860.